Hey, welcome to the shop. Not the horsepower shop, of course. We're starting the show in Hoosier country, and for good reason. You see, it's the next phase of our Project Supernova, a race car that's in need of some super headers. A few weeks ago, Chuck and I dropped in our GM Performance Sports 572 race motor. The engine fit fine, but we realized that no off-the-shelf headers would. Of course, fabbing up our own headers would not only be exhausting, but impossible for Hanson and me. So you're about to see how the experts at Dynatech design them, make them, and hopefully help me install them. Dynatech has been a major player in the manufacture of headers and exhaust systems for all kinds of racing and high-performance applications. So heading to their plant in Boonville, Indiana for the Nova's one-off headers was a logical choice.
It starts right here at the cylinder head. At that point, our engineering group needs to create a drawing or a CAD file so that we can get the laser cutting of the flanges done. And what we've done is we use an instrument called a CMM that actually comes in and locates port center lines, bolt hole locations, the spacing between those two, and then getting our tube location optimized for maximum horsepower and performance.
Next, head engineer Dick Woopst can place a couple of special magnetic blocks on each side of the firewall. They have 3 zeroing points on them to tell the computer exactly where the car is. After establishing some other points with a movable arm, the computer now knows how the tubes can be routed and where all the possible constraints might be. Next step, a 3D CAD drawing of the new headers, just the way they'll fit inside the Nova's engine compartment.
We can actually get a design that we can look at from any angle we choose to, and we're able to see that, in fact, that all the tubing actually clears all of the constraints around which they're routed and are of a controlled length.
Using the computer's information, they can now cut and bend the 2 1/8 inch tubing to make a prototype. The operator is using a manual-operated mandrel bender. After the bent tubes are cut to length, an assembler places them in a jig, where they're tack welded to the fixture stops anywhere there's a splice. Then they're removed and fully welded using this rotary welder. Now the welded tubes can be reinstalled in the jig and the tubes tacked to the header flange. Here's an important step. The inside of the tubes are placed in this hydraulic expander. Now this makes for a nice tight fit inside the flange and makes the header stronger. The flanges can now be TIG welded on the exhaust port side only. Welding on the outside can make the tubes weak and brittle. Now after grinding the flanges flat with a crosshatch pattern for good sealing, they can install and weld the collector U-tabs. Of course, the whole thing goes through a test fitting, including both headers and the collector, before it's sent out for coating. And here they are, back from Jet Hot. Man, look at that ceramic coating. They look great. Let's see if they fit great. There you go, part 2. Ah, the easy one. I love it. Well, that was quick, and they sure look great. Thanks a lot, Wes. Well, time to pack up and head back home. After I slap on one of these decals, hey, I just learned these guys pay contingency bucks to any winner at any track in the country. And you know what? The Nova and I plan on helping them part with some of that cash. See you back in the shop right after this. Next up, a painless way to wire up your weekend racer with a kit custom made for easy installation. And later on, some of those takes that didn't make the show, until today that is.
This thing is bowed down in the middle. It's dragging. I can't even get it to move. Yeah, I was high centered.
Good grief. Well, hello again. As you can see, the Nova and I made it back to the shop, and glad you did too. You know, I'm loving these new custom headers, but there's one thing I forgot to mention. Chuck and I had planned on swapping out that power steering box for a manual box, but the guys from Dynatech saved us a trip to the junkyard by designing that two-piece header on the driver's side, and it's mighty snug in there, but saves us a lot of aggravation. Now, for the next phase of our Nova build-up this weekend, I'm going to make my first stab at installing a wiring kit. But I ain't nervous about this deal because Painless has taken all the hard work out of it. Now, I opted for their Pro Street kit, which includes circuitry you got to have for racing, of course, plus extra circuits for street use for, you know, things like headlights, taillights, turn signals, and even horn. Now, in addition to the switch panel, you get all the wiring you need, terminals, and well, even a pile of ties to cinch down all the wiring. Now, the first order of business, though, is to find a place to mount this box that holds the switch panel. The box comes slotted so it easily attaches to the roll bar with a couple of hose clamps. Now, when you're racing, remember you're wearing a safety harness, so make sure you mount it in a place where you can reach all those switches. Now, before we can install this panel, we've got to route our wiring here, and well, we got three choices. There's a hole here, here, and here. I think I'll come out on this one. First, install a grommet from the kit, then go ahead and feed the wiring. And plug up the empty holes with caps from the kit. Now you can install the panel and secure it with 4 screws. Route the wires down the roll bar and through the firewall. Hey, I got to stop and say something to you guys. Doing this for the first time, well, like me, don't be intimidated by all these wires, unless you're colorblind, that is. You see, your kit comes with a chart telling you where each and every color-coded wire goes, and I think I'm looking for this one next. Oh, and another thing, make sure you use the right tools when you install your terminals onto the wires. A loose wire could just lose you the race. Before wiring up the starter, I'm mounting this optional maxi fuse box to protect the whole system in the unlikely event of a system overload, as well as this universal fuse box for the Nova's accessories. Down here at the starter, that purple wire is our activation wire. One of the red wires is coming from the maxi fuse. The other, well, that's the main power wire for our ignition box. Over here, the blue wire connects to our water pump's wiring. There we go. The gray wire from the water pump is a ground. Even though this clip is staying off the Nova until we finish some front end work later on, I can still attack some of the wiring. In fact, I just removed some stock pieces that we're not going to need anymore so I can pre-wire the fan. By the way, did you know that your car's fan, on the average, pulls about 1 amp of current per inch of the fan's diameter? Now, you could double that during startups, so with that in mind, it's a good idea to install one of these optional relay kits to provide maximum current to your fan and protect the rest of the circuits from overloading. I'm going to mount the relay base here on the core support along with the ground. The output wire goes to the fan, of course, as does another ground. This trigger wire goes to the switch panel after the clip's back on. The main power wire goes to the maxi fuse through the circuit breaker. And that's about all the wiring we can handle today on the clip, until we get it back on the car, of course. Oh, by the way, once we mount a battery in the trunk and get a new fuel pump in place, we'll install yet another relay kit to maximize fuel efficiency. Meanwhile, I'm about wired up for a little break. I'll be back to finish today's wiring workout after these messages.
Our guys sure make high-performance television look easy, but a look behind the scenes will bust that theory. We've got bloopers and outtakes coming up, so stay tuned.
Hey, I gotta tell you, so far this wiring kit for Painless has been just like the name implies. Now, during the break, I got this universal fuse box off the firewall for a while so I could access the back of it. Now, I've been cribbing up some terminals and wires for some of the Nova's accessories, namely headlights, taillights, and the horn. Once again, you gotta use the right tool. In this case, it's a roll crimper, and let me show you how it works. After you load the crimper with one of these Packard terminals and cut your wire to length, place the wire in the terminal, just to the edge of the other side, squeeze down all the way. Then the terminal goes into the back of the fuse box, and the fuse box goes back on the firewall. From the fuse box, I went through the firewall with some wires that have to be routed to the rear of the Nova. One's for the fuel pump, one's for the tail lights. Oh, and there's a third here that comes from the stock brake light switch. Now the tail lights and brake lights, we're going to forego the backup lights and those side marker lights, and for good reason. Remember, the Nova is going to be used mainly for bracket racing and an occasional cruise-in, so we'll keep it to a simple 2-wire setup, along with, of course, our white ground. Of course, this yellow wire is for our fuel pump. It'll be here and ready for us when we get our pump installed. The final phase of our wiring workout today is probably the most important when it comes to competition. A lot of you guys know this is a kill switch or battery disconnect. You gotta have one of these when you go drag racing. Accidents can happen on the strip, and the disconnect switch enables anyone to quickly turn off power from the battery from outside the car, which could prevent an electrical or fuel-related fire. That's why the switch is a requirement at all sanctioned drag racing events. You want to have your switch as close to the battery terminals as possible. Our battery is going to be mounted here to take advantage of the weight, so our switch can be located about here as soon as I drill a mounting hole. First, I like to drill a small pilot hole, followed by a 3/4 inch hole big enough for the installation. Once we finally mount our battery, it'll connect to this switch using a pair of standard ring battery terminals. Well, that's about all the wiring we can do on the Nova for now, but we got a good head start. Anyway, as I told you earlier, our Painless wiring kit is for racing with some street use. However, they've got applications for anything you can name: all-out racing, street riding, even off-roading. Thing to remember with any wiring job is you don't want to do it but one time. So follow directions, be patient, and allow plenty of time for the project. The last thing you want to do is get in a hurry. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm in a hurry to get this Nova out of the shop and onto the drag strip. But we got quite a list left before we can do that. We need a fuel cell in this thing, a drive shaft, some serious suspension work, not to mention getting the clip back on and finishing up the wiring. Plus, we got to get it dialed in. Well, you stay dialed into Horsepower TV. We're going to have some hot fun when we come back. Coming up, you asked for it, more horsepower bloopers, including the agony of victory on the 8th Mile drag strip.
Horsepower TV's Hot Parts is brought to you by Jegs. One call gets it all, one click gets it quick.
Since we've been on a roll with race cars this weekend, here's something for you guys with stick shifts to keep you from rolling out of the staging lanes until you're ready to launch. It's a roll control kit from Hurst that features this billet steel main body, an indicator light, off-on switch, and well, all the wiring and hardware you need to set this thing up. Now, it's been vibration tested at 30 G's without a mechanical failure, and it's easily serviceable right in the field. It kind of takes away one less thing to worry about while you're in the staging lanes. You just got to worry about coming up with $110 to get one. Well, X marks the spot for you race-minded Honda and Acura guys. This is Edelbrock's Victor X manifold for turbo and all-motor applications. This thing has been optimized for maximum power in the 7,000 to 10,000 RPM range. It's made 700 horsepower on a chassis dyno with a turbocharged 1.8-liter engine. Now, it's got extra bosses for nitrous or added fuel injectors, weighs 7.5 pounds less than stock, and will only lighten your pocketbook $330 and up. Our final hot part is so hot, this thing is still warm from the foundry. In fact, this is the first time it's ever been seen. It's Flowmaster's HorsepowerTV muffler, made from 304 stainless steel on the outside, 409 stainless on the inside to really take the heat. Now, it also has a thermal barrier inside the skin to reduce outside surface temperatures and avoid discoloration. It flows just as well as their 40 series mufflers, and the unique shape lends itself to a ton of applications. You can get them in 2, 2.25, and 2.5 inch sizes, and expect to pay about $180 for the unpolished version, $240 for this beautiful polished piece. Well, you know by now my partner Chuck Hansen's not here in person this weekend, but thanks to the magic of videotape and our horsepower bloopers, here's some of the best of our worst. Hope you enjoy it and see it next week.
And it's gonna cost you a couple of grand and up, but it's gonna be worth it the first time you mash the gas past some power.
Pass some gas. Get on your ass.
Plant the power.
This will make the Nova a full-frame car and provide mounting points for the roll cage we'll install in a few weeks. Now, these are two.
There was one good thing about that rear end we removed, and it's got. This thing is bowed down in the middle. It's dragging. I can't even get it to move. Yeah, I was high centered. Ah, good grief.
Two.
Well, how you doing?
Hey, great timing. I was just getting this old shifter out of the way. There it is. Hey, let's swap.
Yeah, hey, nice wood you got there.
Thank you. There's another one.
There you go, Chuck. And action. Sorry.
I thought you said, there you go, Chuck, and I started walking in, but.
Sorry.
Well.
Well. What?
I don't know.
Come by here, see what's going on?
Thought I'd just swing in, check on your wood.
Well, my wood's doing fine. Here it is right now. Oh, you mean this?
Now, check this out. Krager designed the spokes here so they'll clear the calipers of most big brake systems, and with that 4.5 inch bolt circle we spec'd out, that won't fit on there. Plus, with that 4.5 inch backspace that we spec'd, that went right on there.
The box comes slotted so it easily attaches to your roll bar. Oh! First install the grommet, then go ahead and feed the wiring. Which comes out with the grommet if you're not careful.
Plus, it's easy to cut to length. Man, it cut easy before.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
All right, there it is, bolted down and looking good. But you know what? We've got to bolt ourselves. We've got to take a little bit of a break.
You're right there. But when we come back, we're going to take you to, what was it, a brand new...
Brand new picnic of
picnic
power
of
party.
performance, high performance party. We're going to take you to a brand new
Power party.
Power party down in Florida. Stay tuned. Is that okay? Finally, a quiz. Did last week's Barstool races prove that A, two grown gearheads will try anything in the name of fun and friendly competition? Or B, two grown gearheads can look pretty silly having fun and friendly competition? Or C, even when your opponent red lights, don't take your hands off the wheel or your eyes off the track. Okay, here it is again in slow motion. And kids, if you don't believe in wearing a helmet, this should be a heads up. Or heads down, as the case may be.